Well, good evening, and thank you for attending the City Council Candidate Forum hosted by the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce that are watching online. Hi, Mom. I'm Tim Sheehan, President and CEO of the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce. You'll find recordings of this event on the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce Facebook page and on the City of Watertown. I'd like to thank Peter Boyle, the IT Systems Administrator with the City of Watertown, for his assistance to make this virtual presentation. Tonight's moderator again is Mark Roby, the former publisher of the Watertown Public Opinion. Wards A, D, and E candidates are running unopposed, and Mark will give those candidates the opportunity to introduce themselves to you shortly. Mark will also go over the format for tonight's forum. We've received plenty of questions emailed to us for the candidates, which will fill the entire time for us tonight. Please welcome Mark Roby to the podium.
Thank you, Tim. Welcome, candidates. First, a public service announcement. You have voting begins May 28th and continues through June 14th, except for Memorial Day. And you'll use the council door for the council chambers at City Hall if you'd like to vote prior to the election, which is, of course, on Tuesday, June 15th. And it'll be a combined school board and City of Watertown election. Well, thank you for participating online and in person, and my thanks to the candidates who we'll introduce here shortly. Tonight, we're going to follow the following process for tonight's forum. We'll start with a 2-minute introduction from all 9 candidates that are running. We have 6 that are running as challengers, and we have 3 unopposed candidates, which I'll introduce in a minute. After those introductions are done, we'll turn to the 6 candidates up here on the stage, and we'll begin a Q&A where we'll run through some questions of various lengths, from simple yes and no questions to those that are more complex that will require up to 90 seconds. So we'll keep Tim, our timekeeper, quite busy. Tim has some cards in front of him that show a minute and then 30 seconds and then the word stop. And as soon as I see that, I kind of look around, and if you're about to end a sentence, we stop. If you look like you're just about to finish the preamble and continue on, I'll ask you to stop. And then we'll see who can talk into the mic the loudest to get you to stop. After that, we're going to ask each question of each candidate. We'll get the same question. Our first question will begin with Randy at the end, and then the next question will begin with Josh, and so forth. We'll alternate the begin. So Randy will then go to the end on that question. Given there are 6 candidates, we're not going to allow rebuttals, except if I, as a chair, think one is appropriate. I will offer a very short 30-second rebuttal, but then there will absolutely not be a rebuttal to the rebuttal. So if you take a shot at your candidate or your opponent, which is fine, I may choose to offer that opponent, if they've already spoken, a chance to rebut the comment, and then we're done. There was a clarification question in the Tuesday night debate, so we handled that as well. And that may come up again tonight. And then I would also say that most of the topics, most of the questions came from people sending emails to the chamber prior to tonight's event, including one late this afternoon. And then I have a set of questions also that I've added to it, which is the prerogative of the moderator. At the end of the Q&A, we'll go to our closing remarks, where you'll have 90 seconds to close with why should we vote for you. So with that, let's go ahead and begin with our first candidate who's running for unopposed for Ward A, and his name is Michael Danforth, and he will try to describe in 2 minutes why he is running for council and what qualifies him for this position of responsibility. Michael.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Mike Danforth. I am a 36-year resident of Watertown. Came here a few years out of college and have raised my family here with my wife Lori. We have 3 sons. All 3 of those sons are here in town, working in town. 2 are married. My wife and I have been very active in the community as it relates to working with and through nonprofits for mostly for the youth and for those that are in need in South Dakota, Northeast South Dakota, and in Watertown area. I spent 9 years on the Plan Commission Board of Adjustments prior to running for the City Council. I spent 2 terms on there, so that was 8 years. And prior to running on the council, I was on the board at the Municipal Utilities Department. I was there for 3 years. I am a retired businessman. I was employed here a number of years, was co-owner of a business, and so here I am now coming back to some public service. The 8 years that I served in the community on the council, I enjoyed that thoroughly. I like being a part of that and seeing what we can do to better our community. So why am I running? I really believe right now with the introduction of the city manager form of government, I think it's very critical that we have a very strong and experienced council, and because we've got a good staff, we'll have a mayor that we all, mayor and council, all have to adjust to the new our new roles. And so understanding that is going to be critical, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of establishing a better planning process for the city of Watertown. I think that's something that under the old structure has been problematic. I think it's been difficult because we have a history of one-term mayors, and I want to be a part of that. So that's the biggest thing, is to get us going with and implementing the new city manager form of government, because so much is going to center around that and what we do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Our Ward D candidate running unopposed is incumbent Bruce Beulah. Bruce?
Thank you, Mark. Just want to say hi to Tim's mom. Also, I want to thank the Chamber for putting this together for us and for Tuesday's event. And I'd like to thank Mark for moderating this, as well as all the folks that are here to attend, and those of you who are watching online. I'd like to start. I've been a Watertown resident for 40 years, and I know you're looking at me and saying, no way that guy could have been here that long. But I've been here 40 years. I'm married to my lovely wife, Susan, who is in attendance here this evening. We have 5 grown children between us. We attend Cornerstone Methodist Church. And I think one of the things that might qualify me for this position is my diverse background in city government. I've served on the Planning Commission. I did that for, I think, right around 20 years, with 16 of that as president. And poor Mark back here had to suffer through some of that with me on the Planning Commission. And I also served 8 years on the Board of Adjustments. At that time, I did convince the mayor to make the Board of Adjustments part of the City Planning Commission. And so I served 8 years, and I was president. I served as president for those 8 years. And I had the distinct honor of serving the citizens of Watertown, representing my neighbors in Ward D for the last 10 years, 6 of those as president of the City Council. I've served on several boards and commissions, to include the Library Board, the Utility Board, the Airport Board, the Urban Renewal Board, and currently I work with the Park and Rec Board as the liaison and as a board member. I have served with the Watertown Banquet. That's kind of near and dear to me. I've done that for quite some time, up until COVID. And so hopefully we'll get back. I'll be able to get back and work with that to a greater degree soon. I've spent most of my career in the business world, in sales and marketing and product management. And some of the notable projects perhaps that I've worked on, I kind of spearheaded the planning and construction of the premier softball complex. And I co-chaired the construction with Mike Danforth, actually on our wellness center, which I feel has been a very nice success for us. Am I getting too long? Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks, Tim.
As when he was Planning Commission president, he pulled the rug on me a couple times, so it's my chance to get even. Our final candidate without an opponent is Ward E, West Watertown and Lake Convesca. My alderman, Glenn Vilhauer, also an incumbent. Glenn.
And I probably get more questions and complaints from Mark than anybody else in my ward, so here's a chance to get back at you. Yes, I'm the Ward E representative. My wife Darla and I have lived in Watertown right at 40 years. I can't claim quite the background that these two gentlemen have as far as city government, but I served 10 years Army National Guard, served as treasurer of the Prairie Lake Hospital Board for 10 years, served as chamber board chair, and served 7 or 8 years in that board position. So I've got a good background in public service in Watertown. 6 years ago, when I participated in this forum as part of a contested race at that time, there were 2 challengers against me at that time. I said I bring no specific agenda to the position. Watertown has been good to me and my family. I just want to give something back. I'm here for that very same reason now tonight. I want to continue to serve Watertown, but it's also an exciting time to be involved in leadership in Watertown. Mike alluded to the city government, the city manager change of governance in our community. We're going to a smaller council size. That's going to be a challenge in and of itself, with potentially some new faces on that. So I think bringing some experience to the table is important with the changes that are happening. I'm excited, extremely excited about the city manager form of government, because it is something I've been a strong proponent of for the last several years, and so exciting to see it come to this point now and being very close to bringing that person on board starting next month. I think we've got a top-notch candidate or top-notch person that we've engaged. I look forward to serving with these 2 gentlemen and whomever else comes out of the fray sitting at the table here. I look forward to serving with you folks. But I also want to publicly recognize and thank 3 long-term council members that will be leaving. Don Roby, Beth Manti, and Dan Albertson brought a wealth of experience and leadership to the council. We are sorely going to miss them on the council, so I want to thank them for their service. And with that, I just want to thank the residents of Watertown. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve in this capacity, and I look forward to it for the next 2 years. This is a 2-year position that my ward will be undertaking. So at that point, it'll be up for election again. But I do want to thank the community for allowing me to be of service. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's begin. And what I failed to do Tuesday was I skipped the intros. I'm not going to do that tonight. So we're going to begin. Each of you have a 2-minute intro to begin. Tell us why you're running for the council and what qualifies you for this position. And we'll begin with the at-large candidate with the highest letter in the alphabet, which is Randy Tupper. Randy, please, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mark. As Mark said, my name is Randy Tupper. I've lived in Watertown for 62 years, so that tells you how old I am. But I've enjoyed Watertown. Watertown's been really good to me. Watertown's giving me a lot of opportunities. I've been one known to give back to places that give me opportunities. Some of the things I've been involved in my lifetime is a proud member of the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors. I'm a past president there. I've been on their board for close to 20 years. The used to be Watertown Area Transit, now it's Community Transit of Watertown Assistant. I've been on their board for close to 20 years. I do chair their board. I have chaired their board for probably about 15 years. We now serve, through a consolidation last year, we now serve 15 counties with a budget of about $2.2 million. So that's a handful in itself a lot of times. Proud to say that I've always been involved in Watertown Area United Way. United Way gave back to me many, many years ago. And it's deep and dear to my heart to get out every year and serve United Way. I sit on their board of directors also. Biggest reason I'm running, 4 years ago, Josh here, through a runoff election, beat me out. And it was a very humbling experience, the 4 years I spent on there. I still got time to give, and I really want to give back to the community. The community, like I say, has been great. My wife Vicki, sitting back there, we've been married for 38 years, have 2 children, both grown, 8 grandchildren, finally got a grandson out of the 8 just last week. But I've really enjoyed, like I say, it's a humbling experience. So Watertown has a lot of things happening right now that's really great, and I want to be part of that. And the change in city government, I think with my experience and being on the council before, and with my experience through all the boards I'm a member of, and I think I can really help lead it. So,
Thank you, Randy. The second at-large candidate is currently an incumbent in the Ward D, is running for at-large, and that's Josh Y. Josh, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today. I like to see the involvement people have in local government. My name is Josh Y. Born and raised in Watertown, 42 years. I absolutely love this community, heavily involved in the community, and I have been since a very young age, and I absolutely enjoy it. Some of the things that I am involved in, I sit on the Salvation Army Board, the Watertown Volunteer Center, the Watertown Housing Authority. I'm a Mason. I'm the president of the JCs, the Watertown Fire Rescue Advisory Board, a former board member of that. And I've also, during COVID last year, started Watertown Community Cares. I spearheaded that event and organized it along with other organizations. So we all came together and were able to give back to the community, and that was just so awesome to be able to do a project like that, have the public come out and support us and the volunteers. So pretty proud of Watertown Community Cares and what we were able to do during COVID-19. I am a small business owner. I opened Wise Pizza, probably one of the toughest businesses to open, a restaurant, and I opened it in a pandemic. But the community of Watertown has been absolutely amazing, and they've supported me through this whole process. And it just goes to show you how great Watertown is when they support you in this endeavor that I've taken on. I enjoyed City Council, and I would like to serve another term, 4 years at large. 8 years ago, I was asked to consider running for City Council. At that time, I wasn't ready. Kind of gave me 4 years to prepare, and then 4 years ago, I decided to throw my ring in the hat, and was very honored to be elected by the people of Ward D. And now at this point, I would like to be Watertown's City Councilman for the entire community at large. So I have enjoyed my time, and with lots of changes going on in city government, I would like to continue the process and see that new change of government and be a part of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. Ward B candidate is Colin Paulson. Colin, you have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you, and thank you everyone for being out tonight. My name is Colin Paulson, and I'm running for City Council in Ward B. I'm a 2008 graduate of Watertown High School, and after high school I served in the military, in the Army National Guard, in the 740th Transportation Company out of Millbank. I did that while I was attending college at the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, where I got my civil engineering degree. I moved away to Seattle actually for a few years, and I was a consultant engineer out in Seattle, which gave me a lot of background into the city government, as I worked with all different sorts of governments out there. We worked with the local municipalities, we worked with the state, we worked with every county. Very eye-opening, and that kind of got my interest into the government here. And then I was given the opportunity to move back as an assistant city engineer in Watertown here, and I served almost 3 years in that role. And very honored, very humbling experience there. It really gave me a big promotion at a pretty young time in my career. And then now, currently I'm serving as the superintendent of project operations for J&J Earthworks, and we have a few developments in Watertown here. I was a founding board member of Excite Watertown, and a current member of the VFW here in Watertown as well. In my work with J&J Earthworks, I've really had the pleasure of working on multiple facets on many different jobs, and I've gotten into the business side quite a bit. I've gotten to hit on the ice arena and many trying to bring businesses to the Watertown area, and I'm very proud of that. Watertown has needed an ice arena for a long time, and I was glad to be a part of that group that finally got push forward. And I'm a huge proponent for the city manager as well. That's something that we have needed in this community for a long time. So I hope to get elected into the work week.
Keep going. Ward B incumbent, Jason Rademski, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jason Rademski. I'm born and raised in Watertown, South Dakota. I'd like to thank you all for showing up tonight and taking an interest in your local government. I graduated from 1985 from Watertown High School. I went to the best college in the United States, right here at Lake Area Tech. I've raised a family. My wife, it'll be 25 years this year that we've been married. I've got 3 grandchildren and 3 adult children. They all live in Watertown. All my grandkids are here, so I'm one of the lucky guys, and that's what got me interested in government. I've got an aunt and uncle that have spent decades out in state government, and that also kind of sparked my interest. One of the reasons I'm running is to make sure that my children and my grandchildren can stay here and live here and have the opportunity to raise their families here, and they don't look back and say, hey, why didn't you do something for us? I'm an active, I'm a former reserve officer, former member of the Urban Renewal Board. I'm currently on the Gravel Roads Committee. I will be on the newly created Marijuana Committee, which is a hot topic right now, as we all realize. We've got a new ice arena coming to town. We need to work on a labor force. We need to work on affordable housing. We've done some good things at City Hall. We bought some new software for some departments. We've adopted some new engineering standards. We've got a new senior citizen center underway. We've got a new park place that's going to be built. So I just like the opportunity to see some of these seeds that have been planted come to fruition. And it's been an honor to serve you for the last 2 years as your representative of Ward B. And I'd like to continue to serve on that board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. In Ward C, our first candidate is the incumbent, Michael Hewer. Michael?
Thank you. I'm Michael Hoyer. I'm your current Ward C representative. I grew up, raised in Watertown, happily married father of 2, with 1 due in August, which we're really excited about. Currently, I'm a brewer and partner with Watertown Brewing Company downtown in Watertown. I serve as a captain in the South Dakota National Guard, currently commander of 79 soldiers down in Bravo Battery, 147th out of Yankton, South Dakota. Former active Army veteran. On top of that, I currently serve on the Gravel Roads and Alley Committee for downtown, the Downtown Advisory Board, Downtown Parking Committee, Downtown Park and Plaza Steering Committee. Last summer, I helped steer the committee for fireworks to still happen for the 4th of July, and I did that with Councilman Adam Wallum. I'm a member of Excite Watertown and the Watertown Chamber of Commerce. I personally raised $1,470 for the new ice arena back in 2019 and $510 for the zoo quarantine building. I don't know if you noticed, there's a little bit of a trend with the downtown thing. It's within Ward C. But if you vote for me, my focus is over the next 2 years and onward are 1, to get Ward C a path out of the floodplain. It wasn't always in there. And there are some options in the work right now for trying to get them out. That opens up a lot of new affordable housing to folks trying to get to their first time home, where they can start to build equity and a future for themselves. That also opens it up for VA loan holders, which I personally experienced in that ward. Number 2, downtown revitalization. We have so much economic activity right now in the downtown, and it's amazing. It's a great time to be in Watertown, having grown up here, and just seeing all this new activity is such a wonderful sign for hope and a great future ahead of us. And then number 3, public amenities. I've been on the board for that downtown park. It's a wonderful amenity to Watertown that's accessible to everyone in our community. It doesn't involve a membership fee or anything. We just get to experience it as a community. And that's so important to me and key to us building our community and continuing down that path. So, vote for me on June 15th. Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Ward C candidate, Dan Schutte. Dan, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dan Schutte, and my wife Michelle and I are so blessed to have 6 children and 3 grandchildren. We have a blended marriage together, the 2 of us, for the last 10 years. I have a degree in business administration from Midland University out of Nebraska, and I'm running for city council because Watertown has been home for me ever since I graduated from college and moved up here in 1992. This community has provided opportunity for me to start and raise a family. It's provided opportunity for me to run a business and manage a successful business called Diamond Vogel Paints downtown for 6 years, and then merge into the sales experience that I was able to receive for 12 years as well with that business. I also, though, was able to start 12 years ago a nonprofit organization called Access Ministry, which I am now currently the executive director of. Fortunately, over the last years, and especially in the last 12 years, I've been able to communicate and interact with many from this community, from different social, economic, and cultural areas of this community. So with that, I believe that will prove well in my ability to be able to be an even greater balance and perspective to this city council. So this transition that we're going to have into this new city government, I believe that will prove well to help in that process and be well balanced. Just as the ministry that we started 12 years ago provided opportunity for people to serve and build this community, I too believe that I look forward to the opportunity to serve and to help build Watertown. My name is Dan Shuddy, and running for City Council, Ward C. Appreciate your vote on June 15th.
Okay, our first question after the introductions is we're going to go through and talk about the biggest issue, and you'll have 30 seconds. And for the at-large candidates, the question specifically is, what's the biggest issue the city, since you represent the whole city, is facing? And we'll start with Josh. You have 30 seconds. What's the biggest issue?
The biggest issue, I think, in Watertown right now is I would think that looking at unemployment, getting people to come into Watertown to work. We have a very low unemployment rate, and it's hard to get people into town when you don't have enough apartment buildings or enough houses. And I think we've tackled that, so we can hopefully see those businesses start to come into Watertown. They'll have suitable housing, and that'll help grow our community. So I think it's all about getting the people to come into Watertown, and I think the council over the last 4 years has worked hard to provide opportunities to see expanded growth with the housing, and that's one of the biggest issues I think that we face right now in the city of Watertown. We're also coming out of COVID-19, and we see our tax dollars weren't what we projected, so we have to look at those issues and how we're going to handle what we projected and what's coming in. So those would probably be the biggest issues that I see right now that we're facing.
Okay, we're going to stay on the at-large city, so I'm going to go back to Randy now. And Randy asked you, what is the biggest single issue the city is facing?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues is to make sure we have a smooth transition into the new form of government. I think my experience in business management for over 20 years can help with that. I'll have to agree with Josh on, and I think every community in our state right now or throughout the whole country is looking for help. You can't go any place without seeing help on its side. I think they did a great job of developing some housing, but I think that's a big key to workforce development, is getting some more affordable housing. And I think we need to try to find a developer that's more apt to build that starter size house than what we've been seeing to get through the rest of the pandemic. So I think Watertown's did a great job of dealing with the pandemic, but we still got a long ways to go. And we got to be smart stewards of the money that the government's going to send out to make sure that we use that in a proper way to address all of our issues. But I still think the workforce development is one of the biggest issues. So,
Thank you, Randy. We'll move on to Ward B, and this is to Colin. You have 30 seconds. What is the biggest issue in your ward, the biggest single issue in your ward? 30 seconds.
Can you just clarify we have 1 minute or?
30 seconds.
Okay.
Yep.
My bad for you guys.
Hey, we got extra time, Randy.
Thank you for that question. I think Ward B is, the biggest issue is employment as well. It kind of ties in with the whole city, as I think the council has to look at the whole city as a whole as well. They are the voice for their specific ward, but employment is a large issue for this community, and we have some alarming figures of people leaving employment within the city. We have really a large issue with employers finding jobs outside the city as well in their private business. So I
Thank
think
you.
that is.
Jason, Ward B, what's the biggest single issue in your ward?
I think one of the biggest single issues is the condition of our roads and streets. We've got a 10th Avenue project going on right now, and there isn't literally in Watertown not a street you can drive down that doesn't need some repair. So hopefully with the dollars coming in from the COVID relief, we can upgrade some of those. And also our workforce, we got a state unemployment rate of like 2.9%, so we need to get a tractable workforce to come to Watertown and also affordable housing. We can come up with some creative ways on affordable housing.
Thank you. 30 seconds. We're looking for the single biggest issue, Michael, in Ward C, in your perspective.
Thank you. It's affordable housing. I mean, you've heard it across the board. Look, I came back to the state after being away for a decade, had to buy a home here. I had the advantage of a VA loan. There was almost nothing on the market that I could get, even with that. So we have a severe shortage. We have apartments, yes, but we don't have starter homes for people to get started in. That's a big part of why I'm pushing for what I am in Ward C on my focus. But if we want our kids to come back and we want our workforce to stay, we need to make that available to them, because that's the first step to getting going in their financial future.
Thank you. Dan, 30 seconds. What is the single biggest issue in your ward?
I believe working together would be the housing is absolutely an issue. As Michael had mentioned, the floodplain that my ward happens to be in, but also with the workforce, talking with a family member of someone who runs a company in town with many employees, and finding enough employees to be able to keep up with the demand is absolutely, I see an agreement on the table here for that issue. So working together with the help needed in this community for employment, but also the housing, which I believe ties closely with that as well.
Thank you. We're going to stay on the particular ward questions, 30 seconds again per question, because we're looking for snippets. At large, we'll start with Randy. Randy, how do you plan on getting the citizens of Watertown, since you represent all the citizens, involved in decision-making in our city? What are your thoughts on that? 30 seconds.
I think we need to get out in the community more often and try to put together community groups. They did a pretty good job of that in the last 8 years, I believe, but it's always hard to get people to speak up when it comes time to making decisions for the city, unless it's something that they don't think it's good for them. But I think it's to get out, really touch base with the citizens, make yourself free to be able to be contacted and be able to talk and hear their issues. So.
Okay, thank you. Josh, as an at-large candidate, how do you plan on getting the citizens of Watertown involved in the decision-making of our city?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think I'm very approachable, so those citizens can come to me, share their ideas, their concerns, and if we want to start a group or something that they have a particular issue with, I invite them to that and to be open and just let me know what's bothering them. Is it the roads? Is it snow removal? If they communicate with me, whether it's through a text, a phone call, stopping into my business, I'm always approachable. They can always get a hold of me, and I'm just willing to listen to what they have and take it from there to the next step.
Great, thank you. 30 seconds. Jason, how do you plan on getting the Ward B citizens involved in decision-making in Watertown?
I think you have to have some more open meetings, some coffee shop meetings. I've got a website out there. I can be contacted by phone, email, and with social media, it's quite, you can put anything out there and you get comments back to that, and then you can react back to those comments. But I would like to see a great voter turnout, no matter who's on the city council, we're still gonna make you pay taxes and everything else, so take an active part in your government and be a voice, go out and vote.
Colin, 30 seconds. How do you plan on getting Ward B citizens involved in decision-making?
Thank you. I've already had a lot of discussions within Ward B citizens. I actually put 2 names forward for them to run for Ward B because they came to me with a voice, and I said, I think you should run. I think you have great values, And unfortunately, they didn't want to run it this time, but hopefully in the future they want to. And I'm going to continue to push that. I think that that's huge, and I think when major issues are brought up, I'm going to ask the citizens of Ward B to give me an answer.
Ward C, Dan, how do you plan on getting your Ward C citizens involved in Watertown's decision-making process?
One thing I realized during the getting the signatures for the petition to get on the ballot was I was amazed at how receiving people were to visit with them. And when I went door to door, and that might be an old school way of doing it sometimes, but still just to be able to visit with people one-on-one. I'm going to look for ways to enhance that, to be able to visit with people, be it more of my time, making myself available, of course, through some way of social media, but being able to connect with people and talk and have face-to-face with them will absolutely, I think, continue to move things forward.
Michael, how do you plan on getting Ward C citizens involved in decision-making in Watertown? 30 seconds.
Okay, so you can find me anytime we're open at the brewery, and I'm very active and always present there, so we talk about stuff a lot there already. I organized the Downtown Oktoberfest when that started happening, so a lot of it is community events. It's those opportunities to get face-to-face there. I agree with Dan 100%. Showing up at someone's door is a great way to start that conversation too. And I've had that with a lot of the downtown members as well. We talk over Facebook. I'll step in as well and just speak with them, but it's one of those things we got to just keep going and open up those paths for communication.
Okay. Now we're going to go to questions which all of you will be non-ward specific, but citywide. We're going to start with Colin, since you have Josh had the last beginning position, and then we'll work our way around back to Josh. This first one is a yes or no question, so I'm looking for a 5 or 10 second response at the max. The last city election had money from outside Watertown being spent in support of a candidate, meaning Sioux Falls, Rapid City, and Aberdeen, and other towns wanting to influence our local city election. Colin, as a council candidate, do you support a continuation of the nonpartisan aspect, no political party history of our city elections? Yes or no?
Yes, for the most part.
Okay.
I think that there's some certain situations that would allow, or I'd be okay with outside of that.
Okay. Go ahead, Jason.
Yes, I think once you stop doing that, you start infringing on people's Second Amendment rights to free speech and open and honest communication.
Okay. Michael, what do you think about outside money in a nonpartisan city election? Yes or no?
I'm probably a no on that one. City Council is specifically a nonpartisan position because you represent everyone in your ward, and if you can't get above party politics, then I'm not sure what you're representing there.
Dan, how about you? Do you support the continuation of a nonpartisan aspect to our council history and non-political involvement outside of Watertown?
I do believe it should be nonpartisan when it comes to city council and working together from that perspective. There is the challenge though with the freedom of speech, that's still with court rulings that can create issues in that potentially, but still keeping it local is absolutely beneficial.
Randy, how about you? Do you have a feeling about using outside money to influence our local city election and turning it from a nonpartisan into a political event? Yes or no?
No, I don't. I believe in, just like you say, it's a local election. And we're not a state election, a county election, or federal election. I think we should keep our support local. I don't think any nonpartisan group should be able to try to influence that.
Okay. Josh, want me to repeat that or you?
I think I got it.
All right.
I don't like outside money coming in for these local elections. Not a fan of it at all, and don't see what business they have doing in here. I think it changed the election 4 years ago.
Good. Thank you. Next question would be a 90-second, up to 90 seconds, a little bit longer. Executive session came up at the last council meeting. South Dakota law allows, but does not mandate, use of executive session for the 4 listed reasons. It's optional and needs a majority of vote of you, members of the council, for us to have one. There's no reason to think any of these sessions were illegal or improper. However, it was also reasonable to conclude the public, us voters, have no clue as to what's being discussed in executive session. They're behind closed doors. Since you as a council will need to vote on executive sessions, will the voters of Watertown see fewer executive sessions now that we have a city manager in the upcoming term? Again, Jason, we'll start with you.
I think it all depends on, what the topic is. In certain instances, when you're talking about employee of the city, or you're talking about a wage or salary for that employee, or, a developer and a TIF event, it all depends on what they're bringing forth, which, a lot of that stuff has to be held confidential. Otherwise, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. Some things, don't need executive session. It really depends on what the topic is at hand.
Okay. Michael, you're next. Question is on executive session. Will we see fewer executive sessions now that we have a city manager in Watertown?
I believe you will. You can look back on record on how I've responded to this, even at the last council meeting. I'm pretty anti-executive session. I'd rather have it all out in the open where you can see it and you can hear all the discussion about it. There were small boards that have been used in the past as well that folks have gone down that path for some reason. I absolutely hate that path. All about transparency and that you should have it in the open. I do agree with Jason in the idea that there are times it's appropriate. If you're talking about one individual employee, I'm not going to put that person through a public discussion of what might be workforce related. So I don't know that that's necessarily the spot for it, but you'll see less. And we've already seen less, and we're going down a path of less executive session, which I'm very thankful for.
Great. Dan, you have 90 seconds to tell us, will the voters of Watertown see fewer executive sessions than with a new city manager?
Well, based off in the last year or two, there was an uptick, I believe, in the executive sessions, and just based off the mayoral race, they talked about 75% time was an executive session versus the state average of 10%. So it'd be fair to say we're probably going to work our way back down, as they already are starting to do that. I am open. Transparency is what I would believe is the best way to run government, to be transparent and work through that. There may be times with contractual matters or economic development, things like that, that we need to have some of that going on. But as a whole, the state average is around 10%, and there's probably times to do that, but there's a ditch we can get into if we get out of control.
Okay. Randy, you have 90 seconds. Will the voters of Watertown see fewer executive sessions now that we have a city manager in place?
I totally believe that we will. For one thing, when I heard the other night there was 75%, that was kind of appalling, but there is a time and a place for an executive session. There's a lot of things that there's no way you can address without an executive session, and that's why those 4 rules stand in place. I understand, with all the TIFs and everything that we've did over the last couple of years, that's a lot of the reason for executive session being that high. Nothing wrong with an executive session if it's the right reason to go into executive session. You can't have 2 executive sessions in one night. That to me is kind of ridiculous, but I truly believe that they will come down. I think the city manager position is going to take care of a lot of that. A lot of times we went into executive session when I was on the council before that I think with the new form of government we'll be taken care of that way. A lot of small things that were taken care of or that we took care of can be done with a city manager and a good HR person and a city finance officer.
Great. Josh, fewer executive sessions with the city manager is the question. You have 90 seconds.
We did have a lot of executive session over the last 4 years. We also had a lot of economic development. We had a wage study for the city of Watertown. You've seen recently that that has declined, the amount of executive session that we had. When we're in executive session, our attorney is present. Our attorney makes sure that we're following the state laws and keeps us where we should be, and we were always where we should be. We're going to see less of that now that some of these bigger projects have come to fruition in Watertown. So we're not going to have a need for that, those time again over and over executive sessions. So, the last, and we did this often, and I would do it myself, I would ask when we got done with a topic in executive session, was this executive session worthy? And I can just remember the last council meeting where we had executive session. Everybody on the council agreed, yes, this needed to be done in executive session. So we're very aware of the amount of executive session that we had. We've seen that reduced. And I want to keep it at a bare minimum. I believe in that transparency. I think that's very, very important. And it's there. I think we just need to use it when it needs to be used.
Thank you, Josh. Colin, will the voters of Watertown see fewer executive sessions now that we have a city manager in the upcoming term?
I think without a doubt we will see less use of that. 70 to 75% is extremely high, way too high. Our current administration actually ran on transparency during the last election, and that has been anything but the case. And that's been seen on the wage study, all the TIFs. I have community members constantly coming up to me. What does TIF stand for? What is a TIF? What are they getting? If the community doesn't understand it, how are they being accepting of it? And I think that we have a lot of TIF money available to us, so I think we'll see a lot of TIFs in the future, and I think we still need to be transparent about everything. I think that that's huge for this community. There's always the special circumstances, obviously employees, certain wages. I didn't agree with how the wage study was brought out, but wages for specific employees should be kept secret until it's time to put it into the public.
Okay. Next question is Michael's. Michael, cities in South Dakota have a history of running targeted private businesses. For example, after 20 years of private ownership, in about 1920, the city of Watertown got into the utilities business. Or Brookings, which has owned their only liquor store for quite a long time, as well as some utilities, communications utilities. Should, if allowed by the state, by legislative action, the city become the recreational marijuana licensee for the city of Watertown instead of having a private business? And if yes, where should those profits for that business be designated or targeted, or should they just go into the general fund? 90 seconds.
90 seconds, all right. Interesting question, serving on this board currently. It's tough to say because right now we don't know where we're at federally with some of this. When it comes to medical, I'm not necessarily opposed to the city running that. Just because it's something where I think we need a little bit of oversight just on the front end of it. It might be something that can open up as we roll this out and get a little more comfortable and familiar with how that process is going to work. I'm a big fan of free markets personally, so I'd like to see it probably go in that direction. Still, the city's going to collect tax dollars from it regardless. A big portion of it that I think it should go to is towards infrastructure and education 100%. Not 100% education, but those two things. I just think it's integral to funding our roads as we're currently developing them. We have potholes just like any other community. We need a means to pay for those. We have more infrastructure improvements we're doing. We have a lot of roads to plow, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of those for sure. But on the same side of it, we have an education area where we did a half-penny tax increase at the state level to fund our teacher raises, and for some reason we still had a question mark last year where that money was going to come from and where we're going to have enough for raises. If we take that on a little bit more on a personal level, that could be something that maybe we can influence more and continue to build a better education system for our children in town, and perhaps fund some more public infrastructure and amenities for folks to take advantage of and enjoy.
Okay. Dan, question is, if allowed, should the city become the recreational marijuana licensee instead of private businesses? And if yes, should those profits be designated to a specific area? You have 90 seconds.
Well, in this question, I would like to believe there's going to have to be much research to determine what the best way is. When you look at Brookings and the liquor store, it does generate much revenue. But just like Michael's talked about, free enterprise is absolutely, I believe, a part of our democracy here. The marijuana use is something I've never been around or even tried, but it's an item that is obviously made its way into the state and into this community potentially here now. So the wisdom to how to handle that is going to take a lot of questions asked, because it's a new direction to go. It's going to just take some research and questions to be asked.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Randy, back your end of the table. Question is, if allowed, should the city of Watertown become the recreational marijuana licensee? And if yes, would you designate those profits to a specific area or just to the general fund?
First off, I'll set the record straight. I didn't support either one, but I know it's coming. I mean, that's part of what we're going to face. In one of my former jobs, the city liquor store in Brookings was one of my accounts. I seen what they did, what they brought into the city of Brookings. So it's a great revenue source. I think it's a little bit too early to really give a good answer to that because I think we need to research it and see which way it's going to go. Do we have the means to do it? I think it's a great way to control it a little bit better. I think it's a great revenue source. We're going to have a lot more costs with the police. I think that's a good place for the money to go. To say where we're going to spend it, I definitely would not want to see it go just into the general fund. Anytime you put money in a general fund, it kind of loses control of where it was meant to go. It's just like video lottery years ago. It was all meant for education. Now it kind of goes all over the place, but I would not be against watching the city of Watertown at least look into that, or being part of that, look into that and see if the city should be the purveyor of just marijuana.
Okay. Josh, you want me to repeat it?
I think I got it. That's
We got 90 seconds.
All right. I think I can't give you a yes or no answer. I think we need to look at it and see what other communities have done. This is all new for South Dakota. This is new for Watertown. So let's reach out to those other communities and ask them what worked for you. What do you wish you would have done differently? And let's take that, and then with our marijuana committee, we can build from that to maybe master it and to get close to perfect if we can. So I think there's opportunity there for the city of Watertown. It's not like there's a management company in Watertown already that we would be taking away from. This is brand new. And you've seen cities and states have huge revenues come in from marijuana taxes like that. Now, where should that money go if we are in charge of it? Well, we need to look at the police department, funding. They may need more funding for specific programs that maybe there's issues caused with the legalization of marijuana. So maybe they need funding. I don't believe that it should just go in the general fund. It should have a specific use for where that money goes and how it's spent. And then once it's designed for that, that money needs to stay in that fund and just not diluted or anything where we've seen video lottery happen at a state level. So I think there's definitely opportunity for the city of Watertown. Let's get together, figure out what it is, and what is the best route. Maybe it is we run it, maybe we don't.
Colin, would you like me to repeat the?
No, that's okay. I do think my answer is yes. Living in Seattle, I saw it work. It was legalized out there. That was on a state level, so it was a little bit different. But I do think that we need to stop trying to reinvent the wheel as a community. I think that there's a lot of other communities out there that have already looked at this. They already have plans implemented, and it's working. It's bringing in, and in Seattle they call it green money. Oxymoron, I know, but there was a lot of revenue from that, and I know that there's a lot of revenue to be made off of this. So I think to hit on everyone else too, same talking point is you kind of have to wait and see what is that revenue. Is it worth putting it into one direction over the other? Is it going to help the general fund in the end? One idea I had was instead of the frontage foot assessment that's been proposed, we put it towards that if there's enough money in that direction. So that's kind of where I'm sitting on it.
Okay. Jason, want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Should the city, if allowed by state law, become the recreational marijuana licensee instead of having a private business or businesses do that? And if yes, should those profits generated be designated to some specific use or service instead of going into the general fund?
I'm going to say yes, and there's a lot of research that needs to be done. This is so new to South Dakota. We don't know how much we're going to take in. We don't know the problems with it. We're going to have to, on this committee, we're going to have police force input on this. I think if you give it up to the private sector, it's just like the fines for everything. If you're gonna do this, you gotta put some teeth behind it. If it's $1,000 fine, you lose your license for 6 months. We gotta be tough and stringent on it. But we've got this committee formed, and we're gonna have to make, a lot of it's gonna be trial and error in the first probably 6 months to a year of it to see what it generates, the problems it's caused. Does the city want to continue to take it on, or do we want to, let the private sector take it on? It's going to be, both ways. We're just going to have to look at it as a trial and error basis, and I think the money that is generated on it, depending on what it is, some money can go into the general fund, and some money can also be spread out over other, things that the city wants to spend on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question is going to go to Dan. It's a 60-second question. I've got a bit of a preamble because a couple of you are new, would be new to the council, so I want to make sure you understand the question. Speaking of the utilities, as we did earlier, as a business that the city owns, in 1959, the voters of Watertown approved by a margin of 2-1 that the utilities would be independent of the city council and establish an independent board. The primary reason for that vote, if you read the 1959 book, which I have, was because the mayor and then council were taking the utility profits and funding general services of the city. So the city, they took it to a vote of the people, and 2-1 said, keep it independent. One only needs to look at our utility rates to see we're the lowest in the state and the upper Midwest. And we also have a system that has massive redundancy because the utilities board is focused on one thing: low rates and redundant, reliable services. Finally, an example of having an independent utility board focused solely on utility operations to the benefit of the ratepayers was an example of the last month's $120 rebate that each household got. Now, I'm guessing the members of your ward or your constituency all appreciated that like we did. So given that lengthy introduction, Dan, as a council member, will you support or request from the city to the utilities to increase their funds to cover city services, or will you vote to keep the transfer as is to keep our rates the lowest in the state and upper Midwest? 60 seconds.
With what I know currently, keeping things the way they are at with the utilities, not interfering with the utility department, how they're being run, what they've been doing. Of course, there's more behind the scenes, I'm sure, to learn and grow in, but keeping it where it is currently at, keeping the rates where they're at, communicating together as a city and as utility departments, of course, must keep that communication, but keeping it where it's at with the current way we've been running business would be my vote.
Okay. Randy, back to you. What would you do in terms of supporting an increase in the funds transfer from the utilities to the city?
I would say no. I mean, utilities have did a great job. I mean, it's one of the greatest organizations in the state as far as keeping rates down. Like you say, we have the cheapest utilities. It's not doesn't surprise that every mayor we've had for years and years and years have tried to get more money out of municipal utilities. But they need those funds to look out for the future. Look at the substation they built out by Terex. I mean, that was planned out. They were using funds, that money was planned out for expansions like that. You go back to our flood in '97, look at the way the municipal utilities handled a lot of that. I mean, the funds that they put aside, yes, they got more money in the budget in reserves than any other organization around Watertown, but they've got some great stewards of our dollars. And I mean, just like you said, the $120 we got back, I don't think that happened anyplace else in the country. So where most people were paying 5 times their rate. So no, I would not.
Josh, do I need to repeat it?
No, sir.
Okay, you got 60 seconds.
Thank you. I think there needs to be some open communication. What the voters did 60 years ago was great, and it's been great for the city of Watertown for the last 60 years. As we all know, things change. The way things, the money, the expenditures, things like that, things have changed over the last 60 years. So I would really like to see more open communication between the utilities and the city of Watertown and have those discussions. Maybe we say, okay, let's continue following this plan, or maybe we say, hey, Could you give a little here? Could you give a little there? So I think it's really important that we just have that open communication with the city and with utilities. And I'd really like to see that in the next 4 years. And let's explore it. And maybe it's fine just where it's at. Maybe it needs to change. But what the voters did 60 years ago, I thank them.
Colin, as a council member, will you support a request to increase the funds transferred to cover city services, or will you vote to keep the transfer as is? 60 seconds.
I think right now I would vote to keep it as is. With that said, I do think that there's a lot of issues to work out between the two sides. When the city comes to them with a request, it seems like there's always issues. And then being a contractor on the other side of things, we have a lot of issues to work out there too. And it seems like there's not a lot to answer to because they're not answering to the public necessarily, whereas the city funds are. And I think that there just needs to be a little more transparency there, and those issues need to be worked out because, like Josh said, this was voted on 60 years ago, so I do think it needs to be reviewed. And I'm not saying change it, but I think there's certain times when things need to come up for review just to make sure that everything is right.
Jason, will you support a request from the city to increase the funds transferred to cover the city services, or will you vote to maintain it so it stays with the utilities?
I'd like to see it stay with the utilities, although I know Steve Leaner made the comment at one time that if they raise the utility rates by $2 a month, they get phone calls. So there's a lot of folks out there that need every, nickel and dime they got to make ends meet. And if you look at the history of the utilities with the lowest rates, and I mean, they've had general managers there that have been there for years on end. So the board is doing a good job of hiring good, general managers to lead that utility division. They've got a lot of employees there that have been there a long time. But at some point in time, for safety's sake, as a safety net, maybe you do need to review things once in a while, but as of right now, I think I'd like to keep it the same.
Michael, you want me to repeat it?
No, thanks, that's okay. I would say they can keep their status as is. I do think 100% that the city and the utility need to have better relationship. We need more partnership, I think. Right now, it's a little bit button heads at times, and honestly, they use executive session too, and so the transparency can be an issue. We do partner on things. Downtown alleys, I know that we bury our utilities there when we're trying to do a road on top of it. So that's an opportunity that we take. We do need to communicate, but I think there's opportunities for utilities as well to start addressing some of the other issues we have in town that kind of relate to things they do. Lighting along our trails. There's sections in Riverside right now that are absolutely dark at night, and I mean, I'm not a female, and we have a lack of representation with that, but if you're running at night along that trail, you want to feel safe, and honestly, utilities could look at doing some lighting along those potentially. So looking for those partnership chances where we can work together and really mend the relationship that we've kind of developed over the last few years.
Okay. Next question. We'll go back to, I think it's Randy's turn. Dan had the last one? Okay, we'll go back to Randy. This is a 60-second question. I'm trying to understand what you as a council member, especially you as an at-large council member versus a ward, what will you do differently with a city manager in place as compared to what the old strong council, weak mayor form of government that we had?
Well, I think we need to learn to communicate with people better. I don't think a lot's going to change as far as that goes, as far as the city manager compared to a strong mayor. The biggest thing is communicate with people within the community, make yourself open. I think we have a lot to work on some transparency issues, but make yourself more available. I mean, you got to get out in the community and make yourself visible and be able to speak to the people to get them to speak with you. So,
okay. Follow up, Randy. Will you support the city manager speaking with the public?
Absolutely.
Okay. Josh, what will you as a council member do differently next year or next term as compared to the old strong council, weak mayor form of government now that we have a city manager? How will you act and do things differently?
I think with Watertown having a city manager being obviously voter approved was an awesome direction that the city's moved in. We probably should have done this a number of years ago, but it happened and now it's going to take place. And it's an exciting time for that city manager to come into Watertown. We've got a lot of things going on, a lot of positive things, and I think the city manager is the right fit. You look at other communities that have them, and you know, most of the communities praised heavily of having a city manager. So I think this is definitely the right direction. And I think the communication with that city manager, they've got a lot on their plate. So as a council member, I'm not going to be pestering them, you know, on a regular basis. I want them to do their jobs. They have a job. It's clearly spelled out. And I think they'll do great. I think the committee that put that together, the job description, did a wonderful job on that. And it's going to be an exciting time. We've got a lot of changes coming here really, really soon. And with that, I'll just finish up, I guess, if Tim's telling me that.
Josh, will you support the city manager speaking and communicating directly with the public?
Absolutely. I think that's something.
Thank you.
I don't give you one.
All right, Colin, as the Ward B council member, what will you do differently than the strong council, weak mayor form of government now that we have a city manager in place?
You know, looking at how the council currently works, it's not necessarily broken, but I do like the direction that we're going in. The manager was a huge step for this community, the right direction, I feel. And something I would do different, I guess, is just keeping that communication open with the manager and hopefully the staff. That was a problem when I was there, and that was used against me a lot, that you just couldn't speak to council members. And I disagree with that. I think having that open communication is key to not only the staff members, but the manager. And the manager is going to be key for this community to grow and move forward. And
City manager speaking to the public?
yes.
Thank you. Jason, what will you do differently moving to a city manager form of government?
Just open communication. You know, I want to add, I think we hired an excellent candidate. She's got a great personality. She's got a proven track record. Just be open and honest and transparent, you know, let the staff feel at ease that they have, you know, an avenue that they can go talk to the city manager if issues come up, and not feel that they're being hindered in their job performance, that they have open communication, someone to go to, and feel at ease that they can do their job without fear of retaliation.
Will you allow that city manager to speak to the public?
Yes.
Michael, what will you do differently?
So what's really lovely about this new form of government is that it allows continuity to happen in a much more consistent way for the city. It's the same person working with the staff, and it gets the politics out of the daily running of the city, which I think benefits everyone. For council, yes, we shift over to a different role along with a voting mayor. Realistically, it should give us more opportunity to focus on policy, the things that affect the community more than anything, and we can continue to create those public cultural experiences where we come together as a community and build those nostalgic memories that we'll have for years to come.
Okay, and I assume you'll allow the city manager to speak to the public?
Yeah, I hope she participates too.
All right, good. Dan, how about you? What will you do differently in the new form of government with the city manager?
Well, yes, I mean, everything I've heard in talking with folks, that Amanda Mack is greatly qualified for this position. And so the direction we've gone as a city in the past councils and votes, it's the right direction. I believe we're going. Working with Amanda, I believe she would need to have that transparency, and I would say yes to that question for her to be transparent, and giving her having that professional relationship, maybe instead of sometimes can become political, where she can do her job, and then the mayor and the city council can work together to lead and get vision and direction for the city. So I do agree with the direction we're going.
Great. Okay, we've got a lot of questions to get through and we're running out of time, but we're going to keep plugging away. This one's going to be 60 seconds. It's going to go to Josh. And it's the ice arena, front and center in front of the council. And a couple questions. One, and see if you can get them both done in 60 seconds. how do you justify TIF to fund a public project, especially given this is on a greenfield space, open territory, no blight? And is the council sharing the upfront risks with the taxpayers on a privately funded but long-term publicly funded project? Is there more information needed to the taxpayers?
That's a long question and a short time to answer. You know, these TIFs have been used in Watertown, and for this particular project to be able to use the TIF, you look at the qualifications of what a TIF can be used for, you know, and it can be used for this type of project. It's something that the community wanted, and for this partnership to come up and for the city to be able to participate in it, I think that was a golden. You know, we stumbled on this for years and years and years of how we could do this and when we were going to build it, and it was really nice to see this all come together in the last couple of years. So I'm excited for that. You talk about the partnership that the city has. There is a risk, but you know, I think that we've got great people within the city that can take a look at this and make sure that we're going in the right direction with it. And I think Watertown's going to do it right, and other communities are going to come back and say, let's do what Watertown did.
Josh, yes or no? Should there be a public vote on this $15 million project?
Yes, if they want to, yes.
Okay. Colin, question is, how do you justify a TIF to fund a public project, especially given this is in a greenfield space and no urban blight to clean up? And is the council sharing enough information about the upfront risk with the taxpayers on this privately funded but long-term public project? 60 seconds.
As I mentioned before, I am part of the development of this area, so I do want to keep some of that. I can't disclose a lot. We have a great plan for this area.
If you got a conflict, just ignore the question, we'll move on.
Yep, and that's why
All right?
I'm not going to answer it directly, but a TIF is a great idea for big projects like this, and so I'm not going to answer for this specific project.
Fair enough. I was not aware of that, so thank you for disclosing. Jason, how do you justify a TIF on a public project in a non-blighted area? And is the council have they shared enough information of the upfront risk with the taxpayers on a privately funded public project?
Yeah, TIFs have been around for a long time. You know, the area where the ice arena is going, didn't see a lot of development out there. It has the potential to bring a lot of money in. You know, every time there's a TIF and we discuss this, we discuss it with the finance officer to feel what her comfort level is. We put a lot of trust in the Watertown Development Company. They've got bankers that sit on their board, you know, that deal with finances all the time. So there's a lot that goes into this before we just automatically rubber stamp a TIF event.
Okay. Michael?
Sure.
Oh, Jason, excuse me.
Oh.
Do you, yes or no, should the public vote on this $15 million project?
Yes.
Okay. Michael, sorry.
No, that's okay. So TIF, there's different ways these can happen. It's tax incremental financing. Essentially, they do get used often in blighted areas. At the same time, there's different justifications for a TIF. A lot of times you'll see a but for, so it wouldn't have happened but for the TIF. There are a few ways to go about it, but you know, they're a little complicated, and 60 seconds isn't enough time to go through it. I'm sure there's a great TED Talk. But it's a good method for financing it. We have this beautiful public-private partnership happening on this, and honestly, more of our projects should go down that route, where we're working with public entity and private to fund these things. And they found a really creative way to finance this, and you know, there's always going to be a little bit of risk with development, but if we never take the risk, we don't grow as a community. So it's worth it. And I think we share in that because we are members of the community and we represent the members of the community that we do. So, I mean, we take it very seriously when we go down these routes. As for should people vote on it, you can refer anything that gets passed, and if there is conflict with it, absolutely get out there and refer it if you want to see that public vote. Otherwise, we represent you as representatives.
And thank you for defining TIF, which I didn't do 2 nights ago, and I should have, so thank you for covering for me. Dan, the question is, How do you justify a TIF on a public project in a non-blighted area? And is the council sharing enough of the upfront risks with the taxpayers on this privately funded but public project?
In looking in the property that the ice arena will be located, it's a newer development. It's been a little, there's some property things going on there with the other properties going up, but still a little slower in that area. And this would absolutely escalate and develop that area quicker. And from what I've heard as well too, the numbers of revenue it could bring in would be as $50 million plus for the community. So I know that as much as the TIF has certain areas it's designed for, there is parameters where it's open to where it can be used for something like this. And so just again, trusting that the city did their research. I wasn't involved in that particular decision, but that they made their decisions based off the proper research. It absolutely has the potential to be the right move for that particular project. And yes, as far as the city goes.
Should be referred, or should the taxpayers vote on it?
And as far as the vote goes, like everything else, when there's a move to get things voted for, let's do it. Let's get the people involved, if indeed so.
Okay. Randy, want me to repeat the question?
Please.
How do you justify a TIF to fund a public project given that it's in a non-blighted area, like a downtown or something? And is the council sharing enough of the upfront risk with the taxpayers on this privately funded public project?
Well, first off, I'm all for it. I mean, the TIF, I believe, falls into that category. If I remember right, a lot of that property years ago when that road was first built was put into a TIF and never used for development. Now, I don't know if that's the particular site, but I think it falls under the TIF. A lot of people might remember I sat on the ICE committee when I was on the council before. We were very close to building one back then, and I'm excited to see what happened. As far as the council being informed on everything, I don't think, or knowing everything that's going on, I don't think, right now the way it's set up, if I understand it right, the council really don't even know how much it's gonna cost. So the council agreed on it, I'm all for them agreeing on it, but they need to know the cost of it. We can't just give a private developer or the WDC an open checkbook and say, yeah, well, that's gonna work for all of us. It's a great development. I look forward to seeing it happen. Like I say, I have all the support in the world with the ice arena. It should have been done many years ago, but I think we need to have the council more involved in the dollar amounts.
Should the public vote on this 15 or whatever the number project is?
Well, I didn't think the bond was going toward the ice arena.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I just
So-
wonder, I guess the question is, should the city approve a project of that caliber without a vote of the public? I think is the question.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next one, we're gonna do a 30-second question on and it's a yes or no, so you can do it. Did I skip anybody?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm encouraging him. I said, you're next.
That's typically what happens. Yeah, Colin, and this is a development question that you may have to beg off, so but I'm gonna start with you anyway. Yes or no, do you think the city's relying too heavily on Fargo-based Craig development? 30 seconds or less, yes or no?
No, I do not.
Okay,
But I'm also involved with him
All right.
as well.
conflicted out. Jason?
No, I don't believe so. We've done our due diligence on this. The WDC has done their due diligence on this. Any developer that wants to come forward with proposal to the city, we're more than willing to look at it. He's done some great things in this town, building a senior center incorporated with some apartments, which was needed, and the Parkside Place apartments, the lofts. He's done a lot of good things for the downtown, and I think we're open and willing to listen to what any developer has to say.
30 seconds or less. Yes or no? Are we too dependent on Fargo-based Craig development?
No, we're not. Anybody that comes forward with that kind of creativity and wants to invest in our community, I think is a wonderful thing. But I wouldn't forget that we recently supported Stony Point in their development, and Crestone Builders purchased many buildings downtown now as well, and going to be doing apartments as well. So I would only say that I think he sparked a bunch of other people to start getting more involved too.
Dan, how about you?
having local and out-of-town investors is always a plus for any community. With the Craig development, what they've been doing here, again, that's a private enterprise, and they've seeing this as a community to grow their business and grow Watertown. I'm all for that too.
Great. Randy?
I don't think we're relying on him too much. I mean, it's great to see somebody like that come, and it's been a great partnership for not only him, but a lot of things that he's doing in the community, you know, like with the senior center and part of the park, and he's cleaning up some properties. It would be great if we had local developers that would do that, but I look forward to seeing him continue to invest his money in Watertown, and I think he did a great job for all of us.
Okay, Josh, how about you?
Sure. I don't think we have relied too heavily on him. Look at this. This is an out-of-town developer who saw opportunity in Watertown and has brought us project after project. And how exciting is that? To have someone to come and say, you know what, Watertown is a place I want to build. Watertown's a place I want to develop. So it's awesome to have that. And I believe it has spurred other developers to do the same thing. And those developers are local. So I think he really took the ball and got it rolling, and now we're seeing these other developers jump on and they're saying, hey, I want to do something, I want to do something. So I really think that it has created a lot of excitement, and
I'll take that as a yes.
yes.
Thank you. All right, Jason, you get the next question. This is 30 seconds. With all the development underway downtown Watertown and a looming new planned park and the loss of a lot of open parking spots like over where the Elks building used to be, is the city staring at a new, in 2022, downtown parking space availability problem? Yes or no? In 20 or 30 seconds if you want to illuminate that.
You know, it's hard to say. We'll have to see moving forward, you know, what kind of events are held at the park. You know, I know Thursday Night Live is a good attraction, you know, but we could use some more parking downtown, you know. It was nice to see when Craig's developed the lofts that he put underground parking there, you know, which relieved a lot of parking, but downtown parking's always kind of been a little bit of a problem.
Well, let's move on to Ward C, where they talk about it all the time. Michael?
Yeah, there you go. We have a meeting next week to cover this too. I started talking to downtown members for them as well. So, parking crisis in the downtown. Do we have one? There's been studies done right now. There's a lot of public parking that folks just don't know exists. The signage is so small on it that they don't know it's there. And so it's been underutilized historically. You go to downtown Sioux Falls, downtown Brookings, you don't mind walking a half block. In Watertown, we mind a little more. So we're trying to tackle how we can best do that right now, whether that's Google Maps integration, so you know where the lots are, or just some other methods. We'll find out next week.
Dan, how about you? With all the development, are we staring at a looming parking space problem for downtown businesses?
I believe with what you're saying with the development that's happening downtown, the potential is going to continually increase. So we definitely need to pay attention to that. As we do lose some parking, having a park downtown has a lot of benefit. I know as well for especially the kids that grow up in apartment living, having a park and grass they have to put their feet on. But the parking scenario is going to become an issue, I believe. So we definitely got to keep on that one.
Okay. Randy, how about you?
It's great to see the way they're developing the apartments downtown now. When I was on the council before for 3.5 years, I was president of the urban renewal board, and I did a lot of studying in downtown parking. At that time, most of the public parking was very underutilized, but we did some things at that time to change some parking and change the way we can park overnight and encourage people to live downtown. I think it could be a problem, and it could be a good problem to have, because we want to see downtown Watertown thrive.
Josh?
Thank you. What an awesome problem to have. What does that say about downtown Watertown? It means it's growing, it means it's thriving, and it means that we need to take an opportunity to look at, do we need more public spaces? What can we do to get it? Do we need to build parking ramps? Who knows? But it's just an awesome problem to have that shows you the excitement in downtown Watertown, how Watertown is growing downtown, and who knows what that's going to bring for the future. So I think it's an awesome problem, and let's tackle it and come up with a resolution.
Colin, I hope you can answer this one.
I sure can. I do think that there is a potential problem. However, I don't consider it a problem outside of the businesses wanting people to park in front of their business. That's been always a common theme. that is really good for the ease of citizens getting into that business. But walking downtown is good for all the downtown businesses. People tend to look at other businesses that maybe they didn't know was there, or stop in for a beverage or somewhere to eat too, that maybe they didn't plan on previously. So.
All right, next question goes to Michael. COVID-19, somewhat of an issue the past few months. What could we have done better as a community in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic?
What could we have done better? Honestly, I would say Watertown did a really fantastic response to it. We were pretty aggressive with it early on the shutdowns, but then as we saw the scenario unfolding, we walked it back a little bit and tested the waters. So it's been an unfolding event for all of us, right? So we had folks up higher than us telling us different information every week, and we just had to roll and adapt with it as we could and come together as a community as we could with it. So I think we did the best we could with the situation that we had and the information we had.
Dan, what do you think the city could have done better handling the COVID pandemic?
Early on, it was, I believe what they did was they came together with professionals in this arena, and they worked together to come up with wisdom in this and made decisions as a city council. Honestly, for the answer to the question, I don't know if they could have done much better, because I do believe they did quite well. And in that process, just seeing how everything unfolded, not having mask mandates, they had a mask resolution, which I believe was a good way of going about this. If you look nationally, there was a lot of mandates, but yet you look in Watertown, a lot of people were still wearing masks. A lot of people were still going into stores because stores had some policies. So they did a fine job in not mandating it, but continuing forward to be safe.
Randy, what could we have done better?
I don't know if you can expect anybody to do anything better when we went into uncharted waters. I mean, it was definitely something nobody knew about. What was it going to react, or what was it going to cost? I think the city did a great job. The biggest thing they did that I feel that Watertown probably lacks in most cases, but they did an excellent job here, is communication. I mean, if you didn't know what was going on and what the rules were around Watertown or what the counts were or things like that, you really weren't paying attention. So because they did an excellent job of communication, I don't think there's anything they could have did any better.
Josh?
Thank you. Developing the unified command center, using that on a regular basis, that really helped us get through this. It was all kinds of professionals from different areas that came together, and like everybody said, we don't know how to handle a pandemic. There's of course books that you can read and things like that, but I think we handled it very, very well. I heard from people on both sides, make everybody wear a mask. Let me choose, I don't want to wear a mask, so we really had people coming at us from both sides, but I think we did the best job that we could, and I guess we'll write the playbook for the next one, and hopefully that's not for a very long time.
Colin, your perspective on what the city could have done better?
Honestly, I don't think they could have done too much better. The initial response was kind of what we were seeing around the country. I respected the council decision. The no mask mandate, I thought was the right call. We let people decide for themselves. I think there was a lot of governmental overreach in the United States over this, and I think that our local leaders made the right call, and it just highlighted how important our local leaders are and how important that they are to the community.
Okay. And Jason?
We made one of the toughest decisions that a council, probably past, present, or future, ever had to make, was to close businesses. And we didn't know a lot about it then. We kept a command force. We were having daily updates, daily meetings. The council was informed. And I thought we got through it quite well. I think we fared a lot better than a lot of other cities did. If I could do anything different, I don't know what I would do differently. I think the city handled it great. All the command incident staffs handled it great.
Thank you. Next question to Dan. Dan, the city passed a Compesca master plan a few years back. I think it's about 18 months ago or so. I'm curious to know, as a Ward C council member, if Lake Compesca is an issue that you think we should tackle as a community member, and if we have a project that can clean up Compesca, would you support that? You have 60 seconds.
When I first moved to Watertown in 1992, growing up in Nebraska, learning to water ski on a gravel pit, I felt like I moved to the ocean moving up here. So the lake is definitely a big asset for this community and a blessing. And living on a lake for 16 years, I've enjoyed it myself. There's work. They're working on some studies and working with the phosphorus removal and even working to control even the inflow of contaminants. It's always been a big issue, and so this is one with being a resident on the lake for 16 years, utilizing the lake, seeing what it is for this water town. I do see there should be a working together with the other organizations to see what we can do to help get that lake cleaned up. But again, it's been a long going, and I look forward to seeing what we can come together with.
Randy, at large, the lake is part of your constituency. What do you think about supporting the Compesca Master Plan and solutions to get Lake Compesca cleaned up?
Well, Lake Compesca is our pride and joy. Actually, the city of Watertown forgot about Lake Compesca for a number of years. I would fully support it. Isn't there a study or funding going on right now to study the dam issue again, or hopefully?
Yeah.
I think we got to be real careful when we go into that. That created a lot of bad feelings between the city and county, and I think we need to go about that real carefully and make sure that we're keeping everybody informed and involved in it. I think the last time we kind of cut the county out of it and tried to just get Watertown to be involved in it. Like I say, Lake Compesca is our pride jewel that we have, and I would do anything to see Lake Compesca get back to where it used to be, but I think we're probably past that point. That's why we need to work on the upper watershed part of it first to address it. So,
Thank you. Josh?
I'll just have you repeat the question.
We approved the Compesca Master Plan. What is your feeling about Lake Compesca as its importance to Watertown, and in particular, would you support efforts and programs with your vote to clean up Compesca?
Definitely. Watertown, Lake Compesca has been a selling point for Watertown since day one. If you read anything in the history, Lake Compesca always comes up. They talk about the water, the clarity. So from day one, it's always been a selling point. It's faltered. We need to do something. It's going to cost millions and millions of dollars to get it to where it was 100 years ago, 125 years ago. So it's not going to be a project that can be fixed overnight, but I think we keep looking at it, keep chipping away at it, and hopefully we can make improvements to it. Maybe we take that marijuana money and stick it towards the lake.
There you go. Colin, Ward B. Is the lake important to Ward B and to you, and will you support the Compesca Master Plan and cleaning up Compesca?
100% our lake is important to this community. Bringing it into city limits a few years, a long time ago now, but I think was huge for this community, but it meant that lake was our lake. And we have to take care of it and improve it how we can. But with the recent development around the lake, I think it's going to drive taxes, it's going to drive tourism here, which I think is going to be huge for this community. And I think we all should be kind of in support of that. I know some people aren't because it kind of ruins the feel of a residential lake, but we have a lot of development right now that's going to be good for this community. And Mahoney Creek Dam could potentially make this lake a little bit better. Again, there's some issues with that too that need to be worked out, and then zebra mussels, of course. They're going to clean up the lake naturally, but they are a hindrance. So.
Jason, your thoughts on Lake Compesca and cleaning up the lake as a part of Watertown from your ward?
Yeah, we've got to do something. That lake's been running on borrowed time for the last few years now. I've been out on the lake before and with some friends of ours that live out there, and we were on the west side of the lake and probably 200 yards out, and he said we were in like 2.5 feet of water. So we've got to do something to create the capacity out there. We've got to do something for water clarity. We've taken some steps to remove the phosphorus from it, but it's definitely a selling point to Watertown.
Great. Michael, Ward C?
I'd say absolutely. I'll point out there's a lot of camping and recreation that goes on in Compasca. We got our first pop-up as kids in 1996 for Mother's Day for my mom, and my dad had fireside camper as well. But Compasca is so important to Watertown, and why wouldn't we clean and maintain our lake? Getting into the Mahoney Creek Dam, that not only helps out Lake Compasca and can do so much water quality benefit, but that also ties into getting Ward C out of the floodplain. So going down that path, it's important for that. It's important for our ward especially. But getting Compasca cleaned up into a place where we have wonderful aquatic life just going nuts in there would be fantastic. And there's some plans within the Compasca Master Plan to increase our fish rates and everything there and putting more natural habitat back in. So any of that is going to be an absolute benefit. And Compasca is a treasure to Watertown, so let's be good stewards of it.
Great. Okay, we're on our last question before closing remarks. I have more, but we really drug this out, so I'm going to let you off the hook. This one just came in late this afternoon, and it's a yes or no question with maybe 10 seconds, 15 if we push it, and it starts with, I think, Randy. What is your position regarding developments that the city approves to build on top of wetlands and build without sidewalks? Do you support that, yes or no?
Run that by me again.
Sure. What's your position regarding the developments where the city approves to build upon a top of a wetland or build without sidewalks? Do you approve that or not?
Without further study, I mean, there's got to be some answers there that the engineering department can answer, but without further study, I mean, right at this point, I'd have to say no.
Okay. Josh, how about you?
Well, I'm not sure if I completely understand what the person asking the question is trying to get their point to be, but we just can't build anywhere we want. You have to involve federal government when you're talking about wetlands and things, so we just can't build developments wherever. Obviously, we have to follow federal law and go from there. So I'm not quite sure what they're after for an answer there.
Let me repeat it again, Colin. Your position regarding developers that want city approval to build on top of wetlands or build without sidewalks. Would you approve of that as a council member or not?
No, I wouldn't. I think sidewalks are vitally important to communities, especially children and people that want to walk in the communities and wetlands. There's laws, or federal, state, and local laws that you have to follow to make sure that that's not the case, or if you do.
Jason, how about you? Yes or no?
We adopted some new engineering standards for best management practices, and that addresses a lot of that issue with the developer on a wetland. And I am dead set against any development that does not include sidewalks. I was at an area of town at a rummage sale, and there were no sidewalks, and it was like herding cattle down the street.
Gotcha. Michael?
Josh kind of touched on it. Developments with the wetlands, if you develop on that, you do have to replace it. If they follow federal law, that's one thing, but getting people to get a basement on houses in a wetland is kind of questionable, just because you're going to always have some of those flooding issues, and if it's pumped and discharged into the street, it deteriorates our streets early. We've had those conversations before. Sidewalks, every time they're brought up, you will hear me say, put them in. I'm kind of a predictable response on that, much like Don Roby is. But sidewalks are important. I have a young family. We walk on the sidewalk. I hate seeing kids going to school walking in the street to do so. So always have those sidewalks in. It's a public safety measure, and it's a quality of life situation. So absolutely there.
Dan, how about you? Build on a wetland, would you approve that, or no sidewalks?
I'll start with the sidewalk. Going around getting petitions signed, I was amazed at how many areas in Ward C there were no sidewalks, especially in the library and over to the high school area. So just navigating through that, I could see the why that is an issue that needs to be always kept up on. So yeah, with new developments, the sidewalks, barring anything that brings greater research, it just makes sense for me right now at this particular time to see the sidewalk involvement. As far as the wetland and development, that is one I would absolutely have to research and find out what has been done, what works, and what's best for Watertown.
Good. All right, I think that's it, because you got the question first. So we're now moving into our closing remarks, and you'll have 90 seconds to tell the voters why I should vote for you, and it begins with Josh.
All right.
90 seconds.
All right, why you should vote for me. Like I said, I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Watertown, the Watertown community. I've enjoyed my 4 years on city council serving Ward D. I'm running at large because I had so many people tell me the last election they went to vote and my name wasn't on their ballot. So I thought this is a great opportunity with this change of government that they'll have that opportunity to vote for me. I'm deeply involved in the community, volunteering, constantly, it seems like weekly, I have a volunteering opportunity, and I take that opportunity very seriously and enjoy it extremely, very much. I just feel it's my civic duty to serve the people of Watertown. Watertown has been so good to me that I want to, continue to be a cheerleader for them, and it's been great to serve the community of Watertown. So I hope everybody gets out to vote June 15th. Typically we see an extremely low voter turnout. I want you to know that every vote counts. So you have that opportunity to vote early. Take that opportunity starting May 28th. And if you don't vote early, please come on June 15th and vote that day. And I would certainly appreciate your vote at large.
Thank you. Colin, why should we vote for you?
All
90
right.
seconds.
Well, with my experience working with City Hall, and with the City Council, I've learned how important the City Council is. I'm promised and I'm motivated to be an active listener and represent your voice. With any kind of growth, you must experience change. And while, I haven't served on the City Council in the past, I'm really excited about this opportunity. And that kind of came with a recent change. I'm sure some of you are aware that I changed from running for mayor to running for Ward B. And that's because I wasn't running against someone, but for something. And I think I can do that something in this seat. It's really important to me, this community, making decisions, and I really want to make a change, a positive change for this community. Watertown's an amazing community that I'm so proud of, and that's why I moved back recently. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to start my family and grow. And I share a lot of similar thoughts with a lot of citizens where we need more opportunities for growth to move forward. And I've already been working with that with the developments in town, including the ice arena, and bringing new businesses to Watertown. We're in a lot of discussions with a lot of different businesses, and we're very hopeful with that. So with that said, let me represent you, advocate for you, and support you. Vote Colin Paulson, Ward B, on June 15th.
Thank you, Colin. Jason, why should we vote for you?
I'm a lifelong resident of Watertown, 32 years of employment with the same employer. Watertown's been good to me my whole life. I never left. I stayed here. And I want to give people the opportunity. I want to be a part of giving people the reason not to leave, that they can stay here. Everything they have is right here. I believe in the community. I've seen it grow. I look for open opportunities, economic growth, development, equal opportunity for everyone. I've enjoyed being on the last 2 years as a council, and some good things have started, and I'd like to see those things through to fruition. And I just encourage everybody to get out and vote. Be part of your local government. Take an interest in your community. So please vote Jason Radomski, Councilman Ward B on June 15th. And I also have to recognize a little fan in the back.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Michael, why should we vote for you?
So I've heard the lifelong resident statement quite a bit, and I believe and I respect that. My parents are lifelong residents too. I wasn't. I completed high school. I went to SJSU for undergraduate. I moved to Kansas City for 3 years to complete graduate school. From there, I moved out to Seattle, where, yes, we saw marijuana in action there. Not participating, but when I was out there, I ended up actually joining the Army. That's where I went into the active military. So I commissioned as an officer from Seattle and then saw all sorts of the country from there. And I served 3 years active duty, and then I made the choice to come back home because I'd seen the rest of the country and I'd seen how special Watertown really is and why I wanted to raise my family there and be closer to home. I mean, we've been here forever. We homesteaded in the 1880s, had one of the only 3 centennial farms at one point. So we've been here a long time, but realizing those roots and what made Watertown so special and what made growing up here so special. So for me, workforce retention is so important. I mean, I'm one of those faces that came back. I'm 31. That's quite a different voice on the council. And that's something I'm going to bring that's unique to it is how do we get these people back in the state? How do we retain them? What are they looking for? How do we do those quality of life improvements for everybody? So please, when it comes on June 15th, please vote for Michael Hoyer, Ward C.
Thank you, Michael. Dan, your closing remarks, 90 seconds.
Thank you. With moving to Watertown in 1992 and the experience I've been able to gain through that, but then even now in the last 12 years, with the oversight that I've been able to bring to Access Ministry, it's been amazing to see how with that oversight we're seeing people from throughout this community with various abilities with coming together with a common purpose. And because it is a ministry and it's Access Ministry, it's about bringing the love and compassion of Jesus Christ. And the fruit that I see with that, even though that's a little separate from government, but what I see, the results of that, I see lives changing because of people coming together under that banner. I see people getting delivered from addictions and strongholds there. I've seen people find encouragement in times of need, in these challenging times. I've seen people from the community seize the opportunity to give up their own time and resources to help make this happen and see lives change and become better. I've also witnessed people take advantage of the opportunity that the ministry has provided to sit and visit with others throughout the community, with someone they may not have normally visited with. Just seeing that networking happen, and then again, the results that brings, I've been able to see that. I've been fortunate to be able to facilitate and lead even the renovation of the ministry building from 12 and a half years ago, quitting my job with $2.57 in the ministry account, but with a vision and a calling to do this, and then seeing it move on to where it became now. It's a building that operates out of a 12,000 square foot floor space, where we're able to fulfill the current and even the future mission of the ministry. So with the business sense that I've gained through my career in Watertown and with the ministry, I would appreciate your support in voting me as city council member for Ward C. Together, we are Watertown.
Thank you. Randy, we started with you. Can we end with you?
Well, let's hope so.
All right.
Why to vote for me? Lifelong resident of Watertown. Been married for 38 years. I got 2 great children and 8 great grandkids. They're not great grandkids, but awesome grandkids. Maybe I'll put it that way. I don't want to age myself any quicker than I have to, but why do you want to vote for me? Every time one of those kids come into Watertown, one of my grandkids, I look at what Watertown has to offer. Watertown's one of the greatest communities in the state as far as I'm concerned. We got one of the best school systems. We got one of the best public safety operations in the city of Watertown. One of the best run cities in Watertown. Low utilities, just like we talked about before. Those are the things that I want to garner and reach out and make sure that we continue to do. Watertown has been very, very good to me. I'm very proud to be part of Watertown. I'd be very proud to be your representative at large with the city council, because I want to see Watertown continue to grow. I've been very, very involved in the community over the years. I volunteered many, many hours into the community over the years, and I plan on continuing that either way. But it's a humbling experience to be able to sit on the council and be able to help people, and I look forward to doing that again for another 4 years. So on June 15th, no matter who you vote for, please get out and vote. But you can vote for me, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Well, that concludes our forum tonight. I'd like to thank you here that sat through what looks like almost 2 hours, but we're short of that. A question and answer session with the candidates facing a contested election on June 15th. I'd also like to thank the 1,000+ visitors that are viewing us online live, and then many hundreds others who will view us later on as looking at those videos. We appreciate your support, and we hope it helps you decide. And most importantly, we hope you'll vote. A reminder, the forum this evening was sponsored by the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce. This was not a debate. It was a forum designed to ask the candidates questions and hopefully get thoughtful answers. I think we did. And so that you as a voter can know who you want to vote for. Really want to thank the 6 of you for coming up and putting your hat in the ring, because it isn't easy. It's a lot easier sitting out there than it is up here. And more importantly, I want to thank you because you're not sitting home or at the coffee shop complaining. You're doing something about it. You're putting your hat in the ring and running. And my hat's off to all of you. And I think we owe these folks a great round of applause. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
No.